Do not bring any confusion between the Ashantis and the Northerners.
Na bibi ba ya ha adwene ye. Oni da goma fo ye relationship no na ye say afi bia no be ma ye nkoa 1000. Wa ma ye nantwie 1000, enwan 1000, mponche 1000, guinea fowl a confirm 1000, nkoko 1000. Nti ema Gary Banu to share other tribes upper east ne upper west ne eyin so a da bia nipa na ne de koma Asante for na Asante for aton ama coastal states no mo de wo akwabrichiri.
And I happen to be an Asante, and from the research I did, both written records and also oral tradition, I found that Asante was the greatest slave-owning state in Ghana.
Now you are Ghana for your mistake, bebre, because you see, you cannot obliterate history.
That's right.
Abakwasa mo pepa no a eyeye. Na Ghana for try say ebe pepa abakwasa.
So we can't erase history. I think that is how I ended. History cannot be erased.
Maya, you will need to be very, very careful and statistics on whatever you said on social media. Do not bring any confusion between the Ashantis and the Northerners. Listen to what he said, then listen to what I drop about it.
Transatlantic slavery, people think that the people that were taken to the Caribbean were mostly Ashantis. No, it was actually the Ashantis that were capturing people. So they were capturing people from the north of Ghana. You know,
other places
the
where
Salaga market.
Yeah.
So they catch you from the Salaga side. They walk you down all the way to Cape Coast, where you take your last bath.
Wait, you walk all the way from the north.
I tell you,
are you kidding me?
So that is why
you are making it up. It's not true.
I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up.
This is
I'm making it up.
Many
if you go to the north,
many of our African American brothers in the diaspora in the Caribbean, we shouldn't think they are from the coastal areas.
No.
Salaga, up north, if we do tourism right, you will just see how they trekked, kidnapped, captured people all the way from present-day northern Ghana, hundreds of kilometers.
Is it not that I know?
Yes, they walked. They.
Some people did not even make it along the way from the north to the south, like central region, right?
Yeah, brother Wode Maya, I think you need to go back and learn the history. Otherwise, you want to bring a lot of problem in Ghana between the Northerners and the Ashantis. The history that you are talking about, I don't think you know anything about the history of Ghana. Wode Maya, can you bring me any evidence of what you just said? Just bring an evidence. Don't just talk without any evidence. This is a lie. He is just trying to plot the Northerners against the Ashantis to bring a confusion and commotion in Ghana. I have never heard this history, only from Wode Maya. You need to bring an evidence of what the Ashantis did, so people can weigh in and understand it.
Now you are not Ghana for your mistake, bebre, because you see, you cannot obliterate history.
That's right.
Abakwasa mo pepa no a eyeye. Na Ghana for try say ebe pepa abakwasa.
So we can't erase history. I think that is how I ended. History cannot be erased.
Hello, Abusofo. I hope say that do mo nyina mo hoye. Me den cha sonko ebremo. Monim say nan say enema a trendy like few days ago. Eya asema Wode Maya bekan ye na Ashanti bloggers ene esrimfo ebimo ene like many other tribes in Ghana like Omaso Omano e de go Wode Maya so. Omo kan sem be like omo pe no kora edidi natem. Na my research no ntimi person me de facts no ebremo na me wi a I'll give a comment at the end of the video. Na mesre say and I don't first time over my page so Bomodina subscribe to my channel mame. Now like the video, drop a comment and hit the notification bell so that may drop it any new video on Sabekan alert no. Message say obe like na wa comment ya mame because I be with the algorithm. When I'm so Asante, I want to thank you in advance. Me pacho message say obe stay through to the end. Na what me comment and why. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Osei kwadwa okunwia brought a great revolution. Na nemreso ena Asante as a kingdom for the first time expanded to the north. Once make within the forest belt.
Right.
Now for the first time it went north upwards then. The gomba for na esi hine na ntokwa ebae na one fashion ekwo kacha Asantefo say wo mo maboa ho nti opoku friend say o say kwadwo na say the troops ekwo ho to okoye no hine okọ face na friend Gariba and on no koye. Indeed history says say nanka yebe defeat Asantefo because the gomba for no mo doso na no mo ho ode ni yese na Asantefo. The only thing about Asantefo no edi won so nkunim ne say the Ashantis, because of their relationship with the southern states, had guns which the northerners did not know. Until from that time na the gomba for free chief for Kabanga owners of the gun. Kabanga gun.
Oh, okay.
Owners of the gun. No, me did defeat you. Yes, I didn't come by Asante Pasankomu, Danugu Asante for some kingdom ne banewie. Na just superior weaponry. And a mass Asante for a D1 sukun. Tomu D1 sukun. Not the goma for no social frafra, ne dagat with all those small kingdoms, no so or not to until automatically nature so we na beche Asante for asi. You understand? Ntiniyama not for any in answer by Asantefo ase no and sa Gariba ntokwa ye bai. Na bibi ba ya ha adwene ye. Oni da goma for ye relationship no na ye say afibia no be ma ye nkoa 1000. Wa ma ye nantwie 1000, nwan 1000 mponche 1000. Guinea fowl I confirm 1000 nkokọ 1000. Nti ema Gariba no tu share other tribes upper east ne upper west ne eyini so a da bia omu nipa na ne de koma Asantefo na Asantefo aton ama coastal states no mo de omu akwabrichiri timesrose ye ka eno African Americans no a ani yenuanom Africa Caribbean ni na most of them are northerners so omu ban so a incidentally they want to be Ashantis. Baby, I'm an Ashanti man because they learn Ashanti history over there and they want to be Ashantis. But the truth is that you can't do one consume no padia for about 80%.
Wow.
And Asantefo could be later we'll talk about that one. They said Jamaica send the chief one kwana akamfona.
And I happen to be an Asante. And from the research I did, both written records and also oral tradition, I found that Asante was the greatest slave-owning state in Ghana because they went to a lot of war. There are so many war captives. So what do you do with them? So you always look at your state need. How many do we need for farming? How many do we need for housework? You look at all that, and the rest you send to the coast to be sold. My father is an academician as well, music and so on. He said, you know what, I have a lot of drum music. You can use some of this in your work. I have horn music, I have drum music. And they talk in proverbs. So unless you study the people and say, why are you saying this? Because in one of the drum language he gave to me, he said, you play the drum and say, I was brought from Salaga. The chief brought me from Salaga for maybe 2,000 kola nuts. And then you ask, why are you playing this in the chief's palace? Well, I'm playing what the chief has directed me to do. He also has done a lot of research on slavery within Ghana and has realized that some of the songs they are singing has to do with let the slave sleep. So he notices, he records it, but plays the horn or the drum. I was brought from the north. I was brought from the Otomisrim. Nanaso Tomisrim in Pensa. My father translated, he brought me from the north. The chief brought me from the north for 3,000 kola nuts. So he gave me a lot of music things to share, which I did in my book and some of my thesis. Everywhere, and I've been to everywhere in the north, because I usually take a letter from the university to cover me and indicate that we are doing academic work. This is not for fault finding or, And then as soon as they realize that the university stamp is on it, with a letter from the top of the hill, in other words, our registry, they give me audience. So we can't erase history. I think that is how I end it. History cannot be erased. And for the African who still is interested in oral tradition, because not all people go to school, but they are in the court. They are serving the queen, they are serving the king, they are serving the chief. It means that first of all, you swear that when you come to work in the palace, you're not going to leak things out. And then you even swear to the extent that if they leak things out, I should be finished. So they swear an oath, all of those who are working in the palace. So until they unswear it, they can't tell me secrets. But a few of them, I went to the Asante court, and a few of them realized that the Asante was giving me audience, and so some of them, Asante said they should give me audience and let me record or write, and many of them agreed. So I got a lot of my information, let's say about 70%, from Menchia, the Asante court, which is the head of all the other kingdoms, because the Asante knew my father. The Asante at that time was a lawyer, and he was also there. So as soon as I mentioned my father's name, he said, Kwabena Ketie's daughter. No problem. You are a lecturer? I said, yes. You are in the university teaching? No problem. We don't mind. We don't want those who will come and just take our past, or, So that is how. So I don't think it will stop, because oral tradition can't stop in Africa and in Ghana.
And then the third source was through what I'll call raids and kidnapping. We find that different states in Ghana, the kings and chiefs would go to their neighbors and raid or kidnap people and enslave them. There was one particular state in Ghana called Akosua, which was noted for this. In the 18th century, two of their chiefs organized bands just to raid and kidnap for the Atlantic enslavement. And there were reports that different parts of the coast in Ghana were also involved in raiding and kidnapping. And then the northern part of Ghana was also noted for a lot of slave raiding and kidnapping during the period of enslavement. So that was the third source. The fourth is what I'll call tribute. Tribute was when a state defeated another state and asked the defeated state to pay tribute. And during the period of enslavement, especially when the Atlantic enslavement was introduced, the picture you get is that instead of asking only for foodstuffs, some of the kings and chiefs would also ask for human beings as part of the tribute. And especially Asante was noted for this. And Asante, for example, would ask Salaga for about 1,000 slaves every year, would ask some people from the coastal parts, Fante, Ga, to provide maybe another 500 or 300 slaves every year. So tribute was another means of enslavement. Guns and gunpowder played a very important role in Atlantic enslavement, especially from 1650 onwards. And this is where you find the impact, because if you look at what was happening during the Atlantic trade, 15th, 16th century, you wouldn't find so many people being enslaved. The numbers were few, and the warfare was not so rampant or insistent. Then in 1650, guns and gunpowder are introduced into Africa and Ghana, and you find suddenly increased warfare, state expansion, strengthening, retaliation, and definitely the more power you had, the stronger you were able to prey on the weaker people. So we find that some states, the states which were able to buy more guns and gunpowder, expanded, were stronger, preyed on the weaker ones, and the states which were not so wealthy to buy the guns and gunpowder became the victims. So we have states, for example, like Asante, Akosua, Dahomey, growing stronger and stronger during the period of Atlantic enslavement. And then we have some states in the northern part of Ghana, especially the states which were regarded as what the sociologists called acephalous, who didn't have centralized states, the Dagati, the Grushis, the Lobis, Kusasis, being preyed upon because they didn't have the weapons. So guns and gunpowder was a very important phenomenon during the period of Atlantic enslavement. The more guns and gunpowder you had, the stronger your base, and you could launch any attack because you were more powerful. Because at that point, some states in the northern part of Ghana were using bows and arrows. So if I had a gun, it would work faster and achieve much more than the person who had bows and arrows. So the people in the north were real victims during this period of Atlantic enslavement. Then you find some of the drum languages mentioning this. In fact, some of them not only mention the loss of people, but they also show where they come from. For example, in Asante, there's one drum language which says, Oto misrem, nananso to misrem empensa, which says that he brought me from the north. Nana or the chief bought me from the north for 3,000 kola nuts. So it also talks about how they were acquired and sometimes how they were treated. And then we have a lot of proverbs and sayings about how slaves were treated internally. And you get this from proverbs, you get this from songs, you get this from drum language and so on, about the treatment of slaves in the internal system. In 1817, there was this British traveler to Asante, and he spoke to the Asante at that time called Osei-Bonsu. And Osei-Bonsu was asking why the British had abolished the Atlantic enslavement. Britain had passed a law in 1807, and this was 1817, and Asante was beginning to feel the effects of the Atlantic enslavement abolition, because Asante was still engaged in a lot of warfare, so there were still a lot of prisoners of war. And this is where you see the relationship and the effect of Atlantic enslavement, because it would have been an easy access. There would be access on the coast for all these slaves to be shipped. Now Asante was torn with what to do with all these prisoners of war. And then this envoy tried to explain to the Asante that we stopped because he looked at the humanitarian reasons. It was bad, it caused warfare, it did this, it did that. And the Asante chief was very surprised. He said, "Oh, did you know this all along when we were involved in this trade all these years? But we didn't think it was bad." And then he brings out what our internal system and understanding is about enslavement. So it meant that when the two people were involved in the trade, both of them had a different idea of what was happening. So for the African, he knew the internal indigenous system, and he thought it was the same system which was being followed elsewhere. So that was the first time in 1817, when the trade had been abolished 10 years ago, that the Asante was even made aware of the differences between the two systems.
The Europeans came to Africa in the 15th century. And when they arrived, they found a well-knit political system in Africa.
A well-made political system?
Yes, well-knit political system. In other words, they were centralized state with kings, chiefs, well-established political systems. They also found that there was a well-established economic system in terms of trading and so on. And so they recognized who the Africans were. And they found strong states, kings who were ready to negotiate with them on equal basis and partnership basis, both in the trade and so on. And in fact, when the Europeans started building the forts and castles, they asked permission from the kings to build their land, to build the forts, and then they paid rent for the forts. So they needed, as it were, the Africans to agree on equal basis or partnership basis to enslave their fellow Africans.
So if Africans had not sold other Africans to the Europeans, there wouldn't have been a slave trade?
I think so. Because the Africans were strong enough. If they had said no, perhaps the Europeans themselves would have tried to go inland, and that would have been very, very difficult.
When I come to Africa, the first thing that comes to my mind, what would my life be like if my ancestors hadn't been enslaved? Mm-hmm. What would I be?
Maybe you would have been a chief in Asante Mampong.
I like being chief.
Yeah, you're a chief, and people have called you Nana, Nana Brebre, Nana Brebre, Nana Brebre.
It's a nice idea, but if my ancestors had been chiefs, it's not very likely that they would have ended up in chains on a slave ship. It's more likely that they'd have been selling slaves and buying guns.
Salaga, 120 kilometers to the southwest of Tamale, is Salaga, the capital of the East Gonja district, which used to be the biggest slave trading center in northern Ghana.
Where we are was the stopping point. When the slaves were brought here, at the end of the day, they will be here at the end of the day. Then they go to the wells and fetch the water, bring them here, wash them here before taking them to the market. Why so? You see, if you want to sell something, you have to make it very, very presentable. So because they came from a long distance, they were tired. So they have to clean themselves, take them there. We have the shea butter oil, all that to smash them. Washing them, they take them through this route to the market. Why Salaga had been adopted as the slave market was that Salaga is between the north and the south. You see, and it is in the middle. Right now, if you are going this way on my life, you are going to Volta region. In front of me, you are going to Ashanti region. Here, we are going to Brown Afro region. And here, we are in the north. Well, so those who dealt with the slavery here were the houses and then the Moshis. The white man didn't come to Salaga. It was our own brothers, Ashantis. You know, Ashantis were coming here in those days because of the market. They came here buying things and selling things, going before that they adopted the Salaga to be the slave market. And there they started buying the slaves to South. Yeah. So here one could ask, how much was a human being bought here? But then they were using a cowries. So we converted it to shillings for us to understand how much was a human being bought here. It was from 20 to 80 shillings.
Ashantis will come with warriors. So they have the guns and all those things. And when they come to the chief, and the chief is not able to provide, then they take the chief away so that the subjects will look for the slaves to go and replace and take the chief back.
Okay.
But the chief who was then there, they met him here. This was a market place. So it's like here I would say our community center where people would converge. So he came here with his horse, and they came with the Ashanti warriors, and he vanished.
Hello, Abusafo. Enti fax na migusu amede Abraham no. Na me wie ye no na video no tenten na almost 5 hours. Na I realize munya time enti me hwani nyina. Ti na se me yi so sa na me scrutinize na me timi be free mo na me timi enya something less than 1 hour e dey Abraham. Na me pese me ye reference bi kakra. Nia muhu yi a history of the Gold Coast and Ashanti. Eno a history book bia eno so a historian bi na chroye. Na sa book yi omo publish in 1915. Until you just imagine that was a very long time ago. Na sa book yi mono asem say NNT okay. Or say although tradition asserts and other evidence favors the belief that these people and the Fantes and other tree-speaking races are the offspring of a common stock, yet the Ashantis stand out in marked contrast to all the others, distinguished as much by their skill and bravery in war as by the patriotism and power of combination that ultimately led to the formation of the most powerful and in fact the only really important kingdom and empire that Gold Coast has ever seen. Intimashada Nama underline the only really important kingdom and empire. We anya santini na choyo. Anya santini na choyo sa di we ho. Brunino and natural say the only really important kingdom and empire. That doesn't mean say now say other kingdoms and empire ni ho. But the most important one was the Asante kingdom. And I say, and it may be the most important kingdom that the Gold Coast has ever seen. And I say from small beginnings, these people gradually extended their power and authority both by diplomacy and by force of arms, until in the end all the surrounding tribes owed allegiance to them and their countries became tributary provinces of Ashanti. Nor can there be the least doubt that that kingdom would, before the close of the 19th century, have included the whole of Gold Coast had not the seaboard tribes been assisted and protected by the Europeans, who feared their settlement and trade might be endangered. Dear Papa Ye Kenyani said, Senkenya Abrofono and a protected the Gold Coast na Nenka, it might appear say Ashanti will end up conquering all the coastal areas in India. So this is a history book in 1915. Now I want to give you another reference. Reference way is from a book titled The Natives of the Northern Territories of the Gold Coast, Their Customs, Religion and Folklore. And also A.W. Cardinal. And also publish sa book way. And also publish around early 1900s no mu. And also publish here. Now in this book no, near Otanika in one of the pages no any. You can go and search for this yourself. You can go and do your own research. But say at some time, probably toward the middle of the 18th century, the Ashanti power was at its zenith. History of the Gold Coast and Ashanti. The king of Ashanti, Osei Opoku, is named as the conqueror of Dagomba. At Yendi, the record of the defeat is passed over, but the fact remains that there lives today at Yendi an Ashanti, a visitor to his uncle there, who, before the advent of the Germans, acted as kind of consul and tax gatherer. The tax, I was told, amounted to the annual payment of 2,000 slaves. In 1821, the British consul at Kumasi, Mr. J. Dupuis, recalls in his Journal of a Residence in Ashanti that the Dagomba capital Yendi and other large towns of the country pay as an annual tribute 500 slaves, 200 cows, 400 sheep and clothes, and that smaller towns are taxed in proportion. I can go on and on. Me say me video no 10 about 5 hours, and I realized that you can't have the time to watch all the 5-hour long video. And utina metwitwa so a mediway ebreo. Said Ababu who said it really happened. It occurred. Asantes took slaves from the north, and so Abrante ya yenya ceremony like Obabe Didi Wode Maya atemi. He doesn't know. He doesn't read. Enti Asante for me so sir, we don't read. Let us go back to that reading habit. So because right now we have Google. You can Google and check. You can Google, you can get books, you can buy books online, you can read them. And many bloggers now move Ghana. No. As for me, I am not a blogger. This is just my hobby. I have other important things that I do. And so because you just go and search the archives and see if you can get any facts in the OBK, especially when it involves history. And you know, said me no, yenuanom doma for no dientia omu ene asante for e come brebeni se chese ayene den so obetima dia tum se esi na so tie de na yenua beba no kana o se onte sa history ya Wode Maya e kan onte da na the fact say onte bibi da no doesn't mean say it didn't happen.
I have never heard this history, only from Wode Maya. You need to bring an evidence of what the Ashantis did so people can weigh in and understand it.
The first say onti bibi dano, it doesn't mean say it didn't happen. Another thing is so I realize about many Ghanaians and only say history no, if it doesn't go in their favor, the history is not true. And I say history no, it is not true. How can you have this kind of mindset? What kind of childish mentality is this? Say onti history dano ntino, chese nyano kre. And I say one ana ankanchira wo dentino, and I say one tino dentino, and nyano kre. What kind of behavior is this? What I say, what it done, I say, won't it done, is not the point. The point is, Obisani said, is it true? Anytime you hear any historical argument, the first thing you must ask yourself, is it true? Don't come with your prejudice. Don't come with your interest. Don't say, me free doma, entino, say, Asante Foka say, doma kusi ye kun, doma kusia, enyano kure, entino, you have to come with like a false history. It's many people know that is what they do. They will never go and research. They will never go and find out whether it is true. They say if you are going to find out if it is true, so don't go and look for modern historians. Don't go and quote a historian in 1950, 1960. That is not good enough. All the histories are maybe 1800s, early 1900s. Those histories, and I said those historians know better than a recent historian. Even in life, say Perbi American abakosema, obi awadi 90 years, and obi awadi 20 years. Emudia henena, as I say, yetien abakosem. Enti historian or true history no 1950. Any historian or true history no 1870. Emudia hena ni dia no ebe no krepa. All things being equal no, dia or true no 1870, 1900. Ni dia no beye no kre acha di or true no 1950. But most of us no, we don't know. If such a history no, it doesn't go in your favor. Any no kre. We are Santini so a onto teme, o yonko Santini na kai. Me so me Santini ti se wa. Se obi kan sem papa na efa Asante fo ho dia na wa jedi. You will not go and search say e yenokure anase yenokure, but say e papa na efeba Asante fo nko dia na wa jedi. E boni so a you will not research say e yenokure anase yenokure. E boni na it doesn't go for Asante sa o say yenokure. Sa na ebi freedom a omoye. Sa na yenu be me ya opese odidi Wode Maya atemu ofri ceremony sa no so person oye all because of say history no, it doesn't go in favor of yenuanoma omofri north. Enti die say an come in favor enti die ade a etwam abakosem enti die, but many people don't know this. So I want to share this with you. Say Let us grow. And yes, people will bring a lot of problems and a lot of issues. History that Nenka Wode Maya ebeka asase mu no, he would never have responded. Nenka o me yesa video we. And a more Asante bloggers na mo ho na. Mo so asem we ba ya. Mata mo camera esimo so a mo so mo ye be like mo ye videos as if say asema Wode Maya kan no or you wrong no. Mo so you don't know anything. Most of you no mo you wrong. Go and read and do your own research and let us stop all these unnecessary heated tensions and debates. Senka manfo nim history nanka domafo ne Asante nanka there wouldn't be any issue. Domafo, most of them, including Omohene no Adjumabedu no, I said this man is very, very intentionally bad, and I say you're ignorant because say onim history no, and now or pretend say onim dia any or you're bad person, but say onim so any or you're ignorant. In each of the options, it is not good for him. You the king no Domahene. We are a little bit educated. You must know the history. It really happened. It really happened. One day, made a video about that. Doma Kusino, it happened. It happened. What I say, it was so canny, I was so why. Do not say it didn't happen. It can't happen. At the end here, Eman Kasarin and say it doesn't favor him. It doesn't favor Doma for. Sana we Santini, so I'll be cancer. Na ekotia Santia. Also, so a mama say it didn't happen. It didn't happen. You two go and do your research first. Your research we are Cranio, we are ceremonial, we are Votarian. If you are listening to me, I told you my channel is to defend truth, Christ, reason, common sense. Adebia ayano Kribiano, so you're a Christian in Kwadia, you are obligated. Say no cry, you have to believe it. And he said, Mia Santini, no bibeka, abakosembi, na ekotia Asante, na ayano cry. I have to believe it. Now, how do I know say ayano cry? I have to do my own research. Meko koyame research. Research and so mepe. Historians are almost 1800s, 1850, 1870, 1900. Those historians, Omudiano aya papa chen historian or 1950, 1960. Those historians are not bad, but the historian now or 1900, 1850, 1830. Omudiano be far more truthful and I say truer than Obina or 1960 historian. Iti senka yebeye researcher. Some of these like heated arguments who social media no near it will not come. Obi Jina say Wode Maya probably he doesn't like Ashantis. He doesn't like Ashantis. He hates Ashantis. At the end Obi can't say suddenly the person hates Ashantis. Mia monomeka say me Asantini, but asema Wode Maya kan no and correct. I will not come and say Oboa. It means that Wode Maya has done his research. Onimadia kakra chen. Most of Momo bloggers now, Moya Asante bloggers ne. Me fan say extreme for bloggers ne. Hey for any hey fan bloggers no. It means that Wode Maya is a little bit ahead of you people because he knows the history and you don't. And when you hear me and you are part of this page and you want to follow me, please only go for what is true. Only stick to what is true. Say no cry. Don't accept it. Don't say. No kure but ekotia maintain enye no kure say no kure na ekotia wa ene suddenly enye no kure but say enye no kure na say ekoma wa eno de enye no kure. We can't live like that in this country. Enti I want to thank you very much. Message say obe subscribe to my channel na wa like video na wa drop comment na wa share so amame na message say obe hit the notification bell no say the be next time be no me drop it new video on sabeka alert no. I want us to build something together. I want this family to be a people Omuya very intellectual, Omuya very educated. They only care for what is true. So that this page is for the defense of Christ, truth, common sense, science, logic, reason, facts, and statistics. Any idea be promote to Ghana, assume any Ghana, any munyam. That is what this page is for. I defend Christ, I defend Christianity, Christian values, I defend the Bible, I defend Obia, Adebia Yano Krebiano, I defend. And I'm essentially a Santini. Into Adebia Asante Adia and contradicted Christianity. And I said contradicted the Bible. No, say no I am going to defend it. And I will do that for any other tribe. Because as a Christian, I don't belong to a specific tribe. And any tribe would be a Bibi Akosua Ayano so I am going to defend it. And this is what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Now you're not gonna for your mistake, baby, because you see, you see, you cannot obliterate history.
That's right.
Abakwasa mo pepa no a na Ghana for try say paper abakwasa.
So we can't erase history. I think that is how I ended. History cannot be erased.
Can any of them was for me ever why I'm in your member?
Thank you for watching. Kindly consider subscribing to my channel, hit the like button, share, drop a comment, and hit the notification bell so you could be notified anytime we post a new video. Also consider following me on other social media platforms with the same handle, BluntGhana. We hope you will do that. Thank you.